Hi folks, it's good to see you again. Thank you for tuning in. I think it's fair to say that it's been quite a long time since my last video, and that's basically because I haven't travelled anything like as far as I'd intended, mainly due to a couple of interventions which I hadn't planned for, and I'll mention those a little bit later. So since, well, the last time I posted a video I was actually on the move, and I moved up to a place called Barrowford, and I was moored up at the foot of Barrowford Locks. Barrowford is, in my opinion, a lovely little town in East Lancashire, which is in the northwest of England. Most of the buildings are original from the 18th, 19th and earliest 20th century. The high street itself bustles with countless little individual shops and whatever, and there's a lovely little park in the centre of town just off the main street, and I'm going to put a few pictures up in a couple of little bits of video, and I'll come back to it in just a moment. As I said, I think Barrowford's a lovely little place. So I was moored up at the bottom of Barrowford flight of locks for a short while, and then I moved the boat up, obviously, to the top of the flight at Barrowford. Now this is quite significant in terms of the Leeds and Liverpool Canal, because if you're travelling from Liverpool to Leeds over the Pennines, Barrowford is the last flight of locks taking you up, and the next flight of locks that I will come across at Greenfield takes me down the other side of the Pennines towards Leeds. So that means that when I got to the top of Barrowford Locks, I was actually at the highest point the boat will ever be on the Leeds and Liverpool Canal, which is approximately 400 feet above my original starting point in Liverpool Docks, and it's also now the long winding road back downhill again. The next significant thing about being at the top of Barrowford flights is it takes me on my next major part of my adventure. You may remember from the last video that I had gone through Gano Tunnel, which was only something like 400 metres long, if that. Barrowford flight leads me on to Foulridge Tunnel, or Foulridge as the locals call it, which is something more akin to 1,400 metres long. Now, unfortunately, and unbeknownst to myself and to my fellow boaters Ron and Julie on their boat, we chose to go through the tunnel on a day when there was plenty of water in the canal in this pound. In fact, it was as full as it could get. And our boats are 60 foot wide and 12.5 foot wide. We had less room than perhaps we'd anticipated to get through this tunnel, and well, unfortunately we both had misadventures. I'll show you a picture now of what I did to my boat. Basically I ran the rain gutter handrail straight into the roof and took off about 1.5 meters worth of paint and primer and undercoat and bits of metal and things, and yeah, that was one of the interventions which meant I had to do a little bit of work on the boat. But at least it wasn't me. My fellow boaters also had some exterior decorating to do afterwards. But eventually we managed to pull up and we moored up on Foulridge or Foulridge Wharf, where we intended to spend a few days before we moved further on up towards Barnoldswick, or Barlick as they call it round here, with the intention of then descending down through Greenfield flight. This is where my plans went slightly wrong. I managed to tear my Achilles tendon, which, if anybody's ever done that before, is acutely painful and doesn't bode well for mobility at the best of times, and doesn't bode well for trying to take 35 tons of canal boat down a flight of lock single-handedly. So I applied to the Canal and River Trust for an overstay, an extension basically, because we were supposed to move every couple of weeks, and got that. And then about 3 weeks ago I rather cleverly managed to break a toe, which on the same foot, which hobbled me, if you pardon the pun, even more, and further delayed my movements. So what I've gone to show you next is a number of pictures and little bits of video clips from around the Foulridge or Foulridge area. Because once I left there, I finally crossed the border into Yorkshire, into West Yorkshire. At the end of the pictures, as usual, I've put a time-lapse picture video in. This is actually the journey through Foulridge Tunnel. If you can make it that far, great, because one of the things I think you might be interested to see is I've got a tunnel light on, which is the front of the boat, on the bow of the boat, which is effectively my headlight. The camera that I recorded the time-lapse on is about 2.5 feet below, directly below that tunnel light, and you can see how little the camera can pick up of the journey. The challenging bit for me is I'm 56 feet behind where that tunnel light and camera is, and I think there's a still shot in one of the images that shows you I can just about see a dot of light in the distance, and I'm supposed to be navigating through a large boat through a relatively narrow tunnel at the same time. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll catch up with you soon and tell you where I've got to next. Take care.